Liam Hale had never imagined that his life would change so completely in a single day. A simple diplomat from Earth, he had spent years negotiating peace with alien civilizations, always keeping his emotions in check, always careful not to make mistakes. But today was different. Today, he was marrying Queen, the ruler of the Empire, one of the most powerful and mysterious species known to humans. No one on Earth believed it could happen, and even Liam himself struggled to comprehend the reality. The wedding was held in the grand palace of a city that seemed alive. Towers of crystal shimmered under twin moons, reflecting soft violet light that made the entire landscape glow like a dream. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully through the halls, their bodies glowing faintly as if their blood carried tiny lights. Liam felt out of place, a human in simple clothes among beings who looked like living jewels. Yet, as he stood waiting he reminded himself why he was here. Not for power, not for fame, but to build a bridge between two worlds that could easily tear each other apart. When she appeared, the entire hall fell silent. Moved with unmatched grace, her body taller than most humans and draped in flowing garments that shimmered like liquid silver. Her crown floated slightly above her head, glowing with energy that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Or perhaps it was just Liam imagining it. He had studied her face for months from hollow recordings, but nothing compared to seeing her in person. There was a calm authority in her eyes, but also something deeper. Loneliness, maybe even sorrow, hidden beneath the exterior of a queen. The ceremony began. Aliens intoned words in a language Liam could barely understand, yet their meaning was clear. This union was to be more than political. Their hands met over an intricate crystal pedestal, and Liam felt warmth spread through him, a strange connection he could not explain. Eyes softened slightly, and for a moment the cold distance that surrounded her like a shield disappeared. He realized that she was as human in her emotions as he was, despite her alien form. Guests cheered, their voices echoing through the palace, but Liam felt a knot in his stomach. The celebration, the grandeur, and the honor of marrying a queen were nothing compared to what he feared most. The private moment after everyone left. What would happen when it was just him and her? How would he bridge the gap between human fragility and alien perfection? After the ceremony, they walked through a long corridor lined with crystal chandeliers that hung like frozen waterfalls. Moved gracefully, yet Liam noticed subtle signs of tension. Her fingers tapped lightly against her arm, her gaze kept shifting toward the walls as if expecting danger. She was a warrior, a ruler, and he realized that marriage did not erase the weight of responsibility she carried. Liam felt a mixture of awe and empathy. He wanted to reach out, but he also wanted to respect the distance she maintained. When they entered their chamber, it was unlike anything Liam had seen before. The room was enormous, with ceilings that seemed to stretch into the sky and walls that glimmered like stars. Soft light pulsed from crystalline lamps, casting dancing shadows across the floor. Liam expected awkward conversation, perhaps silence, maybe even stilted attempts at human customs. What he did not expect was the tension radiating from a silent storm behind her composed face. She removed her crown and placed it gently on a pedestal. The room seemed to sigh as the glowing metal settled. For the first time, Liam saw her vulnerability. Without the crown, without the ceremonial garments, she looked smaller, not physically, but emotionally. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and her eyes carried the weight of years of command and solitude. "Liam," she said quietly, almost hesitantly, "tonight is not like any night I have ever known. I do not know what is expected of me." Her voice was melodic yet trembling, a sound he realized he wanted to protect. He stepped closer. "Then we will not pretend. We do not need to meet expectations. Tonight we only need honesty." Her eyes met his, wide and unsure, searching for a human response. And for the first time, Liam saw a faint smile tug at her lips. It was small, uncertain, but it carried hope. A promise that despite the fears and differences, this marriage could be more than politics. And in that moment, surrounded by alien splendor and quiet tension, Liam realized something profound. This first night was not about ceremony, nor tradition, nor grandeur. It was about two beings daring to meet each other as they truly were, and that was far more terrifying and beautiful than anything he had ever faced in his life. The chamber was quiet now, the echoes of the wedding still lingering in Liam's mind. He thought this night would be filled with awkward conversation, polite smiles, or the stiffness of someone unsure how to act. He was wrong. The moment the door closed behind the last attendants, the weight of the palace fell upon them. Stood near the window, her tall figure silhouetted against the glow of the twin moons. The shadows of the room made her look both distant and untouchable. Liam took a cautious step forward. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. His words sounded almost foolish in the grandeur of the room, yet he could not ignore the tension radiating from her. She turned, her face partially hidden beneath a curtain of silver hair, and he noticed the subtle tremor in her hand. She began, then stopped. Her throat moved as if swallowing something heavy. "Humans expect something from their first night," she whispered, voice low. I do not know if I can give that, not tonight." Liam felt a mixture of relief and curiosity. Relief because the pressure he had feared was not forced upon them. Curiosity because he wanted to understand her, the real behind the crown and armor. He took another step closer, careful not to invade her space. "Then we will not force anything," he said softly. "We do not have to pretend, we can start with honesty." Froze, the faint glow in her eyes flickering like a candle in the wind. Slowly, she lowered her head and let out a small breath. "Honesty," she repeated, as if tasting the word for the first time. You mean you do not mind my flaws?" Liam smiled faintly. "I do not mind them. I want to see all of you, the queen, the warrior, the person." For the first time that night, allowed herself to relax. She stepped toward him, but stopped a few feet away, unsure. Her shoulders, usually straight and commanding, slumped slightly with exhaustion and relief. She was not only the ruler of a vast empire, but also someone unaccustomed to closeness, unaccustomed to trust. Liam studied her carefully, realizing how brave she was in ways no human could imagine. Her life had been lived in constant vigilance, surrounded by advisors, threats, and endless responsibilities. And yet, in this quiet moment, she had chosen to show him a piece of herself that no one else had ever seen. "I am afraid," she admitted quietly, voice barely above the hum of the crystalline lamps. "Afraid that I will fail my people, that I will fail you, that I am too much to hold." "You are not too much," Liam said, stepping closer, his hand open but still at his side. "You are real, and I do not fear you. I want to understand you even if it is difficult." His eyes glimmered, a mix of surprise and relief. She had ruled empires and commanded armies, but no one had ever spoken to her like this, not with fear, not with respect, and not with genuine care. She tilted her head, studying him, as if measuring the depth of his words. "Humans often surprise me," she murmured, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "I thought you would be intimidated or afraid." "I was," he admitted, "but not because of you, because I did not know how to meet someone like you, someone extraordinary, and now I think extraordinary is not something to fear." The tension between them softened, like ice melting under a slow sun. Liam moved a step closer and did not pull back. For a few moments, they simply stood in silence, letting the quiet of the chamber fill the space between them. It was a quiet intimacy neither had expected, a first connection not of ceremony, but of understanding. "I have never been alone like this," admitted finally, her voice fragile. "Not with someone who sees me, not with someone who listens." "You are not alone," Liam said firmly, yet gently. "Tonight I am here, and tomorrow and the day after I am here." Her eyes softened further, the glowing lines on her face dimming like a storm passing. She finally stepped close enough that their hands nearly touched, a silent acknowledgement of trust and shared vulnerability. The air in the chamber felt lighter, warmer, as if the palace itself had noticed the change. For Liam, the first night of his marriage was nothing like he expected. There were no rituals, no grand declarations. There was no pressure or expectation. Instead, there was truth, honesty, and the fragile beginning of trust, something far more powerful than ceremony and far more precious than anything else he could have imagined. The night had deepened, but sleep did not come easily. Liam sat on the edge of the crystal bed, his hands resting on his knees, thinking about the first moments with. He had never felt such a mixture of awe and fear. She was powerful, yes, but also fragile in ways he hadn't expected. Every movement, every word she spoke seemed weighed with the burden of centuries of rule. Meanwhile, moved quietly across the room, her steps light yet purposeful. She approached the window, gazing out over the alien city that pulsed with soft violet lights. The glow of the twin moons reflected in her eyes, but there was tension in her posture. Liam noticed it immediately. Even after the wedding and their shared honesty, she carried a shadow that he could not yet reach. "What are you thinking?" he asked softly, rising to stand behind her. She did not turn at first. "The past," she said, voice low. "The empire I rule is vast, but it is not free from pain. I have lost people, made choices that weigh on me even now." Liam moved closer, careful not to crowd her. "We all carry our pasts," he said. "I am not here to judge. I want to understand you, not the queen in stories, but you as a person." Finally turned, her glowing eyes meeting his. There was a flicker of something unspoken, fear, guilt, regret, but also trust. She gestured toward the floor where faint scratches marked the crystal tiles, remnants of conflicts long past. "This palace has seen betrayal," she said. "Even tonight, I cannot ignore the threats that surround us. My enemies would see this marriage fail, my people divided, and perhaps even you, human, in danger." Liam felt a chill. He had prepared for negotiation, for protocol, but danger in a personal, intimate space was unfamiliar. "I trust you," he said firmly, "but I also know that danger is part of life. We face it together." For a moment looked uncertain. Her head tilted slightly as if weighing the truth of his words. Then slowly she extended a hand, not commanding, not distant, but offering connection. Liam took it without hesitation. Their fingers intertwined, the glow of her skin against his human hand warm and comforting. "You surprise me, Liam Hale," she whispered. "Most humans would have fled or felt fear or tried to control the moment. You understand the weight I carry, yet you do not judge me." He shook his head. "I cannot pretend to know everything you have endured, but I can choose to stand by you. That is enough for now." Her eyes softened, a glow returning to the edges of her face. For the first time, she allowed herself to breathe freely. The tension in her body seemed to ease, though the shadow of the past still lingered in her posture. "I have ruled empires, commanded armies, and faced wars that would crush most beings," she said quietly. "Yet tonight, I feel something I have not felt in centuries. I feel human." Liam smiled gently. "Then let us be human together for however long we can." A distant sound caught their attention, a faint vibration in the crystal walls, almost imperceptible. His posture stiffened instantly. "They are here," she said. Her voice was low but sharp like the edge of a blade. Liam's heart quickened. "Who?" he asked, moving closer, instinctively protective. "Old enemies," she replied. "They do not respect peace, only power. They would see this night destroyed, and perhaps even one of us harmed." Liam felt a surge of determination. "Then we face them, together." Studied him, her glowing eyes narrowing with caution. "This is dangerous," she warned. "They are swift and lethal, but if you truly wish to stand by me, then we will face the shadows side by side." Liam nodded. "I do, no matter what comes." For the first time, they truly became allies, not just as a human and a queen, but as two beings choosing to trust each other fully. The glow of the city outside seemed brighter in that moment, as if the world itself acknowledged the courage in that tiny chamber. Took a deep breath, finally letting go of some of the fear that had kept her apart. "Then let us prepare," she said quietly. "Tonight is not only a beginning of our union, it is a test, and we will endure it together." Liam nodded again, feeling the weight of the night settle differently now. Fear had not vanished, but trust had begun to take root. And in that fragile light, he realized something powerful. The first night of a marriage was never about rituals or expectations. It was about facing the unknown together. The palace had grown quieter after the late-night conversation, but the calm was deceptive. Liam felt it first, a subtle vibration beneath his feet, like the pulse of the building itself. He turned toward whose glowing eyes had sharpened, alert and tense. Her every movement was precise, calculated, as if she were listening to a sound only she could hear. "They are close," she whispered, her voice almost a hiss. "I can sense them, agents of the old faction who oppose peace. They would see this marriage fail before it even begins." Liam's heart raced. He had read reports of assassination attempts on diplomats, of rogue factions striking without warning. But he had never faced danger personally, and certainly not in such intimate proximity. He stepped closer to her instinctively, feeling the urge to protect her, not because she was a queen, but because she was someone who had allowed him to see the vulnerable parts of herself tonight. Without another word, lifted her hands. A thin wall of shimmering light, translucent yet unyielding, sprang from her palms, forming a barrier around them. The air crackled as if charged by electricity. Liam instinctively ducked behind her, heart pounding. A faint crack appeared in the far wall of the chamber. Liam could see tiny metallic shards moving like swarming insects, their edges sharp and glinting under the violet light. They hissed and shimmered, spreading across the floor toward them. He recognized them from security briefings, spore-like assassins designed to disintegrate anything living. Sighs narrowed. "They dare strike on this night in my own palace." Her voice held a mix of fury and disbelief. Her glowing energy pulsed stronger, forming a protective dome over both of them. The shards collided with it, scattering sparks of light, harmless but ominous. Liam wanted to act, but placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Stay behind me," she commanded. The words were soft, yet carried unshakable authority. He obeyed, watching as she moved with lethal precision. Each step she took was measured, graceful, and purposeful. Her hands glowed with energy, forming barriers and directing pulses of force toward the advancing shards. Sparks flew, bouncing across the crystalline floor. Liam's heart thumped so loudly he feared it might give away his fear. "They are fast," he muttered, trying to steady his breathing. Glanced at him, her eyes softened just slightly. "So are we if we stand together." Liam realized that she was not only defending herself, she was defending him. Not as a political symbol, not as a pawn, but as a person she cared for. The realization struck him harder than any danger. He felt a deep surge of admiration, gratitude, and something more, something he could not yet name. Minutes passed like hours. The shards struck, collided, and dissolved against her energy barriers. Her breathing remained steady, her focus absolute, but Liam could see the exhaustion beginning to creep into her movements. "We cannot hold them forever," she said quietly, almost to herself. "We will not need to," Liam replied, stepping slightly forward. "Let's find a way to end this together." Sighs met his, glowing brighter. "You truly stand by me." "I do," he said firmly, "no matter what comes." With a subtle motion, released a pulse that swept across the room. The shards scattered, disintegrating into harmless sparks. The threat was gone for now, but the tension remained. Liam exhaled deeply, his body trembling from adrenaline. Lowered her hands and the protective dome faded. She approached him, her glowing veins dimming as her heartbeat slowed. "You are brave," she said softly, almost in awe. "Most would have frozen or fled, but you stayed, and you trusted me." Liam shook his head, still catching his breath. "You saved us both," he said, "not because I was helpless, but because we are stronger together." For a long moment they stood in silence, looking at each other. The danger had passed, but its memory lingered like a shadow. Liam realized something profound. It was not the threats or battles that defined courage. It was the willingness to stand beside someone, even when fear coursed through your veins. Finally allowed a small smile, fragile but real. "Tonight," she whispered, "is more than a marriage, it is a test, and we survived it together." Liam reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "Then we face whatever comes next," he said, "side by side." And for the first time, the night felt safe, not because the palace was secure, but because they had found a bond stronger than any weapon or threat. After the danger had passed, the chamber felt different. The soft violet light of the palace reflected on the crystal walls, but it no longer seemed intimidating. Instead, it glowed warmly, as if acknowledging the bond that had begun between Liam and. Both of them were still catching their breath from the sudden attack, but something had shifted. An invisible thread of trust had woven itself quietly between them. Sank onto a low bench near the window, her hands resting lightly in her lap. Liam hesitated for a moment before sitting beside her. He didn't know what words would comfort her, or if words were enough at all. For once, there was no protocol, no ceremony, only two beings trying to understand each other beyond their roles and expectations. "I thought I had to be strong always," said softly, her gaze fixed on the shimmering city outside. "I thought showing fear would make me weak, but tonight you saw me. You saw my fear and my flaws, and you did not turn away." Liam reached out, brushing a hand gently over hers. "You are not weak. You are human in ways you forget. Brave enough to face threats, wise enough to rule an empire, and strong enough to trust someone with yourself." Her eyes glimmered, reflecting the soft violet light, and a small, almost shy smile appeared. "Trust is not easy," she admitted. "For me, it has always been dangerous. People expect loyalty, obedience, and silence. Tonight, I felt something different. I felt honesty." "That is how trust begins," Liam said gently. "Not with promises or commands, but with honesty and understanding. You do not have to hide from me. I want to see all of you, even the parts others fear." Turned to him, her glowing veins pulsing faintly with warmth. "You speak as if you know me, but how could you? I am not like humans. I am complicated." "Complicated doesn't mean impossible to understand," Liam replied firmly. "And I want to try. I want to meet you as you are, not as your crown or your reputation." For the first time that night, she reached out and took his hand fully in hers. The warmth of her skin against his was comforting, and the gesture felt like more than contact. It felt like an agreement, a promise that they were facing this together. "You make it seem easy," she whispered, "to feel safe even when danger is near." "It is easy when you trust," Liam said, squeezing her hand gently. "And I trust you." Shoulders relaxed slightly, the tension that had clung to her all evening easing like mist in the morning sun. She looked at him, really looked, without armor, without expectation. "And I trust you too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. They sat together in silence for a long moment, listening to the quiet hum of the palace and the soft wind brushing against the crystalline walls. The world outside might have been dangerous, but here, in this moment, they had found a small haven of understanding. Liam realized that the night had given him more than he could have hoped for, not passion or ceremony, but something deeper, the beginning of real connection. "Liam," she said finally, her hand still in his, "you have changed the way I see this night. I expected fear, formality, or disappointment. Instead, I feel something new. I feel hope." Liam smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "Hope is the beginning of everything: peace, trust, understanding, even love. We start with hope and everything else can follow." Her glowing eyes softened further, and she leaned slightly closer, just enough for their shoulders to touch. The closeness was gentle, deliberate, and safe. For Liam, it was a revelation. How a queen, so powerful and distant, could allow herself to be vulnerable, and how he, a human, could meet her in that space without fear or expectation. "Then let this be our first choice," said, her voice steady now. "To trust, to share, to face the world together." "We will," Liam replied firmly, "no matter what comes next." And in that quiet, violet-lit chamber, trust became more tangible than fear. It was stronger than any threat, brighter than any danger, and the foundation upon which they would build everything to come. The palace was quiet again, but Liam could feel the tension lingering like a shadow. He and had shared their fears, their trust, and even a fleeting sense of comfort, yet the night had only just begun. As the twin moons cast their soft glow across the crystalline walls, Liam noticed something unusual, a faint shimmer near the far corner of the chamber, almost imperceptible, yet deliberate. Sighs immediately caught it, her pupils narrowed and her body stiffened. "They are not gone," she whispered, her voice taut with urgency. "Something unexpected has entered the palace." Liam's heart raced. The shards from before had been defeated, but now there was a new danger, one they could not see clearly. "What is it?" he asked, stepping closer to her. "It is intelligent," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "Not like the automated attackers. It knows, it waits, and it observes. It has been here since before the wedding began." A chill ran down Liam's spine. For all her power, she looked vulnerable for the first time, the weight of centuries pressing against her shoulders. "Then we deal with it," he said firmly, trying to mask his own fear. "Together." Nodded, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "Together," she repeated. She extended her hands, creating the familiar dome of energy around them. Yet this time, the shimmer in the corner did not collide with the force. It moved around it like water flowing around a stone. Liam realized they were facing something far more cunning than before. "This is unlike anything I have fought," admitted, her voice tight. "It is testing me, testing us." Liam's mind raced. "Then we meet the test," he said, determination rising within him. He stepped closer, allowing their shoulders to touch. "Whatever it is, we face it together." Looked at him, her glowing eyes softening for a moment. "You do not know the danger," she said. "You are human and fragile, yet you stay." "I stay because of you," Liam replied simply. "I trust you and I will not abandon you now." The shimmer intensified, coalescing into a form both elegant and terrifying. A creature of living light, shifting constantly, neither fully solid nor completely energy, floated silently toward them. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, glowed with awareness, studying their every move. His hands rose, but she did not strike. "It does not attack directly," she said. "It watches, it learns." Liam could see the creature observing him, as if measuring the human within the room. He realized then that their bond, trust, honesty, and mutual courage was what made them strong. Not weapons, not energy, but the connection between two beings from entirely different worlds. "You are extraordinary," the creature's voice resonated in their minds, calm and melodic. "And yet fragile." His eyes widened. "It communicates telepathically," she whispered. "It is testing our minds, our hearts." Liam reached for her hand, gripping it firmly. "Then we show its strength," he said, "not by fighting but by standing together as equals." The creature paused, floating silently, observing the intertwining of human and alien hands, the courage in Liam's stance, and the unwavering calm in its gaze. Then, as if satisfied, it shimmered brightly and slowly dissipated into the air, leaving a soft echo that resonated through the chamber. Exhaled deeply, allowing herself a moment of relief. "It judged us and accepted," she said softly, almost in awe. "Few beings are ever given this recognition." Liam smiled faintly, feeling the weight of the night lift slightly. "We passed because we trusted each other," he said, "because we faced fear together." For the first time, the room felt truly safe, not because danger had disappeared entirely, but because they had confronted the unknown and emerged intact, bonded, unbroken, and stronger than before. Turned to him, her glowing eyes softer now, filled with warmth and gratitude. "Tonight was nothing like I expected," she admitted, voice trembling with emotion. "I feared duty, danger, even loneliness. Instead, I found companionship and courage I had never known." Liam gently brushed a hand against hers. "Then perhaps the first night was never about ceremony or expectation," he said softly. "It was about finding each other in truth and in courage." And as the twin moons shone over the palace, Liam realized that this night, full of fear, shadows, and tests, had become the first true beginning of their life together. The first rays of dawn seeped through the towering crystalline windows, painting the chamber in shades of soft violet and gold. Liam stood near the edge of the room, still holding his hand. The events of the night, the threats, the tests, the hidden fears, felt distant now, like shadows fading under the light of a new day. Yet the bond forged in the darkness was stronger than any shadow. Turned to him, her glowing eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and wonder. "I never imagined a first night could be like this," she admitted, voice soft, almost vulnerable. "Not filled with rituals or expectations, but with trust, courage, and understanding." Liam smiled faintly. "Then perhaps the first night was never meant for ceremony. Perhaps it was always meant to show us the beginning of something real, something stronger than fear." She allowed herself to step closer, the faint glow along her skin pulsating gently. "You have changed me, Liam Hale," she whispered. "Not by force, not by words, but simply by standing beside me, by trusting me and letting me trust you." He tightened his grip on her hand, feeling warmth spread through him. "And you've changed me too. I have never felt such awe, such respect, such connection. I see you, not just the queen, not just the warrior, but the person who carries centuries of strength and still dares to hope." For a long moment, they simply stood together, absorbing the quiet majesty of the morning and the depth of what they had shared. The palace, once a place of command and vigilance, now felt like a sanctuary, a space where two beings from entirely different worlds had found common ground. Finally broke the silence. We have faced danger, fear, and the unknown tonight, and yet, her voice faltered slightly, a rare vulnerability showing through. And yet I feel alive, more alive than I have in centuries. You are alive because you allowed yourself to feel, to trust, and to be honest, Liam said gently. That is bravery, not the battles or the power, but the courage to open yourself, even when the world expects you to remain guarded. Her eyes softened further, glowing with a warmth that seemed to fill the entire room. Then let this dawn be more than just the start of a day, she said. Let it be the start of us together, not as queen and human, not as ruler and subject, but as two beings who choose each other every day. Liam's heart swelled. I choose you, he said simply, and I will keep choosing you no matter what comes. Through danger, through doubt, through every shadow, I will stand beside you. A faint smile appeared on his face, fragile but genuine. She leaned slightly closer, just enough to brush her forehead against his. The gesture was intimate, yet filled with respect and shared strength. For Liam, it was the most profound moment of his life, more meaningful than any vow, more powerful than any ceremony. You are human, yet extraordinary, she whispered. Perhaps that is why I can trust you so completely. And you, he replied softly, are not just a queen, not just a legend, you are. And I will always see all of you in truth, not in stories or titles. The morning sun continued to rise, spilling light across the palace and the city beyond. In that quiet, glowing space, Liam and stood together, hand in hand, hearts aligned and eyes filled with hope. The first night, fraught with fear and tests, had given them more than they could have imagined. It had given them a beginning, honest, fearless, and eternal. And as the city awoke under the twin moons fading in the dawn, one truth remained clear. Their union was not born from ceremony or expectation, but from courage, trust, and the unwavering choice to stand together. No power in the universe, no enemy, and no shadow could ever undo what they had discovered in one extraordinary night. The first night had ended, but their story, together, was just beginning.